This is the student ePortfolio for Curtin University. What I'm going to do is just demonstrate the ePortfolio from the student's perspective, look at how they document their care, what the templates look like, and then take you through all of the different sections of the ePortfolio. This is the front page that the student sees when they first go in, and as you can see, this gives an overview of the expectations of the course. So this takes them through all of the requirements from ANMAC, so the pregnancy cares, and the student documents their experiences as an ongoing process through the course. So this student, who's clearly very early on through her course, this is an example portfolio, has got one pregnancy care so far, one booking assessment. For labour and birth, she's been with one woman giving birth, no direct inactives, one vaginal examination, and so on. You can see through her postnatal care compilation of experiences, and then down to her continuity of cares. So again, this goes through the number of women she's recruited, how many continuity of cares she's completed, and the total number of continuity of care experience births. And then it talks about feedback from the midwife or clinical facilitator. Because we know it's a big expectation for midwives to provide feedback, we have actually given the students a template that they can give to the midwives to simplify feedback for them, so it's not too onerous a task at the end of the shift. The student can fill in the skills or experiences of the shift, and then it's for the midwife just to give some feedback about what was done well and areas to improve on. And so we suggest that the students use that or get their clinical facilitator to write directly into their ePortfolio on a ward computer. It also lists the professional competencies that the students need to achieve during the course, and it tells them about their midwifery practice assessment form, which assesses their ability in the clinical area, and also their clinical placement summary, which documents their clinical placement hours. At the bottom of this front page, they also document their total clinical placement hours so far, so that we can just dip into their ePortfolio and see where they're at. Also their total hours, which includes their CCE hours. At the bottom, there's also a link to midwifery abbreviations there. At the bottom there's a student declaration, just to verify this is all the student's own work. So that's the front page of this ePortfolio, and you can see as we move along the top of the page, each of these is a different area for the student to document their experiences, and we're just going to run through them. So first of all, if we look at the pregnancy cares, we can see that under each of these little tabs there's the template that the student uses and an example of each template. So the student can go in and see what's been documented before, how it's meant to look. So when they document a pregnancy care, they go into the template and they follow the instructions. So first of all, they need to save the record as pregnancy care 1 or whatever it happens to be, their name and date of the experience. Now, if the woman they're caring for is a continuity of care experience woman, they can tag that this is CCE. So they'd go up here and say, I want to tag, and then this record would automatically go into their CCE collection as well. So here they document all of the information about their antenatal care, risk factors, and notes around the visit, what education was given, what information was given. And then, after each examination, there's student confidence regarding their abdominal palpation. So they're asked, did the preceptor midwife perform an abdominal palpation? Yes. Was it before the student or after the student? Because we know it's more valuable if the preceptor goes before the student and then can explain their findings. And then the student says, did my findings match? Yes, my palpation was perfect. Or no, I got some parts wrong. And then what are you going to do to improve things for next time? Well, at the time I asked the preceptor to clarify, or I took the opportunity to re-examine the woman, or I'm going to go back to the textbook. And then the preceptor's name goes there, and then the signature goes there. So when they add a signature, then that gives them the, I can't do that because I haven't saved the template, but to add a signature, they can do it freehand with their mouse or with a finger, and that's how it works. So If we go back then to pregnancy care and then go to that student's actual collection of pregnancy cares, we can see that she's just so far in her course, she's done one pregnancy care booking and she's done one pregnancy care assessment. So if we then go into her pregnancy care booking, we can see that she has documented this very well for a first time. She's completed all of the information about the woman there, her history, her past obstetric history, she must be a prima gravida, and then all of the details about her booking bloods and everything else. Her abdominal palpation, results of booking bloods there, risk factors, her education needs, what was she given, the mental health booklet, about her birth planning, expectations, and then finally this is signed off by the midwife. And the same is true for all of the tabs. So if we scroll along the top, will be the same for labour and birth. If we go into the templates there, we can see that the templates within the labour and birth tab are being with the woman. There's the example, direct and active care, vaginal examination, episiotomy, and so on. So, for instance, if we go into the vaginal examination template, we can see that the student is able to document the date and time as usual. Was it a continuity of care? Is she going to tag that into her collection? And then what was the abdominal palpation? And that gives them options for everything there, engagement position, and then external genitalia, any description, were there lesions, cervical effacement in centimetres, application, consistency, dilatation, and so on. And then they can describe the direction of the sagittal suture, they can describe the position, or if they want to, they can actually draw a little diagram of it. If they click on add signature, it allows them to draw the fetal head or anything else they want to draw in. So that's the template for vaginal examination. If we go into the student's own collection of labour and birth, then we can see that within that she has one spontaneous birth that she's been to. And so her documentation confirms again that she's completed all of the demographics. She's talked a little bit about the woman using a shower and bath and whether that was effective or not, the length of the stages, a little bit of detail around the third stage, and then additional information. So what was her role during the birth? How did she support the woman? And then the outcomes of the baby, and then finally the signature of the midwife again. So that actually continues for all of the tabs regarding experiences, the same for postnatal cares, the same for complex cares, and then if we go into the continuity of cares, what we can see is that there's a collection for each of the continuity of care experiences. And so for this student, because during her postnatal care, birth, pregnancy care and the booking assessment she tagged CCE1, these have automatically come into this area. So that means that there's no repetition for the student when she documents her continuity of care experiences. Scrolling along the tabs again at the top, we now come to midwife feedback. So this is where the midwife's feedback is documented for the student. The midwife can actually provide feedback in this form that we presented earlier. So the student will write her experiences here, and then the midwife will make some dot points as to how she was doing very well, performing OBS accurately, and now she can start to initiate care instead of waiting to be directed. Or the clinical facilitator might write directly into the student's ePortfolio on the ward computer. So she's written a little bit of summary about what she did with the student today. So if we now go back to our main workbook, there we go. Then we can scroll along to the rest of the tabs. First of all, we have the clinical learning objectives. So the students are encouraged to write their objectives at the beginning of every semester. And then these student objectives are updated as they change clinical area or as they gain more experiences and want to update their objectives. So we can see this student for her first set of objectives, very simple, very basic. and clearly she's had some feedback from her preceptor or her clinical facilitator, and her second set of objectives are a little bit more detailed. So we expect the students to improve as the course progresses. The next tab is her reflective learning journal, and so we expect the students to reflect on their clinical experiences once a week while they're on clinical placement, and to do reflections on their continuity of care experiences as well. So she started her reflective journal, and this is her first entry, just an overview of her first day on labour ward, and she adds to that during her course. Next we have the professional competencies, and within this the students are able to document any e-learning that they carry out, and also any extra professional development outside of the course. So they might go to a conference, for instance. This student has been to the state conference, and her objectives were to feel part of the professional body, to liaise with other midwifery students, and also learn something as well. Also on this page is a list of the competencies that they need to achieve by the end of the course. So if, for instance, we go into their fetal heart rate monitoring competency, then we can see that the expectation for them is, first of all, they need to achieve their e-learning package, so they need to have completed that, and then they sign off for that at the top. So CTG assessment, they go through the CTG assessment here, and then that's signed off by the clinical facilitator. And then also on the professional competency page is their e-learning packages. So there's the link to each of the packages here, and then as they complete the package, they need to upload evidence that they've completed it. So we can see that this student has completed her neonatal resuscitation competence, e-learning package I mean. So she's actually uploaded her certificate here to demonstrate that that has been completed, and that can be ticked off. And that's true for all of these e-learning packages. All of them need to be evidence to demonstrate the student has absolutely completed them. Then the next tab is our empath tab, and this one is the midwifery practice assessment form that the student needs to complete twice during each clinical placement. First of all, the interim report when she's halfway through her placement, and then this will demonstrate for the clinical facilitator the levels of achievement first of all. So it goes through first semester, obviously she's going to be dependent, so level 1, and as she progresses through the course she goes to independent level 4, able to perform skills independently with indirect supervision only. And so then it goes through what this student has achieved directly towards the standard. So all of the standards are assessed, and obviously to begin with the student is achieving only all ones. And again the student can refer to her practice standards here. And then here is her own collection of empaths. So if we go to this student's record, we can see that she's actually completed one interim empath so far. And if we go into her interim empath, we can see that again there's the directions for the preceptor or clinical facilitator, and this is what the student has achieved. She's achieved all ones, and we can see that clearly, which has been signed off by the clinical facilitator. And then moving along, we're on our final tab, which is the clinical placement summary tab. This tab includes all of the clinical placement summary forms that the student needs to complete during the course. So there's one per semester. So we can see with this student she's already uploaded her first clinical placement summary. So every day she takes this sheet to the clinical area and gets her midwife preceptor to sign it off for her. so that by the end of the semester she has a complete record of evidence that she has attended all of her clinical placement. So the midwife name is there and the midwife's signature is there, and there's the dates and place of her clinical placement. So if we scroll down, we can see her total hours of placement and also any absences and whether the medical certificate was sent to the clinical office and also uploaded into her portfolio. I've got too many tabs open now. So if I go back to her, no, I think it is this one. If I go back to the top of her clinical placement summary and then scroll down, I should also, yes, here we go. So I can also see her community professional engagement hours here. So this is where she demonstrates that she has engaged in some volunteer work or extra development outside of the course. So this doesn't include the e-learning packages, but it's if she's volunteered to help at a conference, volunteered to make up birthing kits, if she's read any books or articles to advance her learning, then she documents all of that there, and we need to see 5 hours each semester. This is also where she documents her total sick leave for the whole course and uploads all of her medical certificates as well, so we're able to evidence that. And so that is the whole course. As well as tabbing across the top to see the contents, we can also click here, and that gives us an overview of all of these tabs in a more visual way if the student doesn't want to keep scrolling across. And so we're also able with these set of tabs to see what type of situation it is. Is it a workbook, or is it a blog, or is it a collection? So it just helps with that as well. So that is the overview of our Curtin University electronic portfolio that the students have access to as soon as they become a student midwife, and then when they finish the course they actually convert their accounts to alumni accounts, so they're able to continue documenting within this portfolio for the rest of their midwifery career at no cost to themselves. This is a real advantage that PebblePad offers students. So it means their professional portfolio continues. Thank you.